Zara Carter had always been aware of the world's prejudice, but it never quite hit her like this. Walking down the sidewalk on a late afternoon in her quiet hometown of Willow Springs, she was minding her own business, heading home from a local civil rights rally, when she was stopped by two police officers. It wasn't uncommon for Zara, a proud black teenager, to experience the subtle yet constant discomfort of being judged based on her appearance. But today felt different. "Hey, you, stop right there," shouted Officer Blake, a burly man in his early 40s, his voice carrying a note of authority Zara had long grown accustomed to. She stopped and turned, forcing herself to hold her head high, even as her heart began to race. "Can I help you, officers?" Zara asked, keeping her voice steady. Officer Blake and his partner, Officer Daniels, exchanged a glance before Blake stepped closer. "You got any ID on you?" Zara raised an eyebrow. "Do I need to show you my ID? I'm just walking home." "You're walking in a high-crime area, young lady," Officer Daniels added, his tone laced with a mix of condescension and suspicion. Zara's eyes narrowed. She was used to this. The whispers, the sideways glances, the subtle discrimination. But she wasn't going to let them get away with it today. "What exactly am I being detained for?" Officer Blake chuckled, stepping closer to her, his hand resting on his belt. "Don't get smart with me, kid. Just show us your ID, and maybe this can go easy." Zara stood her ground. "I haven't done anything wrong. You can't just stop me for no reason." A tense silence hung in the air. Officer Blake's face twisted into a sneer. "You think you're above the law just because your daddy's a senator?" He said the words with a bitterness that shocked Zara. The mention of her father, Senator Daniel Carter, sent a ripple of unease through her. She had grown up with the weight of his name, an esteemed figure in politics, known for his relentless fight for civil rights and equality. But Zara wasn't her father. She was Zara Carter, a young woman determined to carve her own path. "You don't get to use my father's name against me," she said, her voice low but steady. "You're not even supposed to be stopping me like this." The officers laughed, the sound mocking her. Zara's pulse quickened. She had faced racism before, on a micro level, but this felt like something deeper, something more sinister. "I'm just trying to get home," Zara added, turning to walk away, hoping to defuse the situation. But Officer Daniels stepped forward and grabbed her arm. "Where do you think you're going?" he barked. "Let go of me." Zara's voice cracked with both fear and anger. The moment his hand made contact with her arm, a chill ran down her spine. She yanked herself free, stepping back. "You have no right to touch me." But the officers weren't backing down. The situation escalated quickly. Zara's heart raced, and she could feel her frustration building. She pulled out her phone and started recording. "You're harassing me," she said, her voice shaking now. "This is on video." The officers paused, but only for a moment. They didn't seem to care. "Keep walking, kid," Officer Blake ordered, his voice colder than before. But Zara refused to budge. "You don't get to intimidate me," she said, her voice gaining strength with each word. And that was when she heard the sound of a camera clicking. A bystander was recording. Zara's stomach tightened. She didn't know who it was or what they were going to do with the footage, but she knew this wouldn't go quietly. The moment the bystander's camera clicked, the entire scene shifted. Zara felt a strange mixture of dread and relief. She wasn't alone anymore. Someone was witnessing what was happening. Officer Blake, now realizing the situation was escalating in a way he hadn't anticipated, took a step back. But Officer Daniels didn't budge. His hand remained on his holstered gun, his face flushed with anger. "Listen, kid," Officer Daniels snarled, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "This is your last chance. You can walk away, or we can make things more difficult for you." Zara felt the sting of their words, the implication clear. They were using their power to threaten her, to intimidate her into submission. It was a harsh reminder of the world she lived in, where the rules didn't apply equally to everyone. But Zara wasn't going to give in. She wasn't going to let them silence her or intimidate her just because of her skin color. She stood tall, her shoulders squared, and spoke the words that had been growing inside her for as long as she could remember. "No, you don't get to decide what's difficult for me," she said, her voice unwavering. You're not above the law, and neither am I. If you touch me again, I will file a complaint." The words hung in the air between them, thick with defiance. Zara knew they didn't believe her. She could see it in their eyes, the disbelief, the contempt. But it didn't matter. She was ready to fight back. The bystander, who had been filming the encounter from a distance, suddenly stepped forward. "Hey, leave her alone. This is getting out of hand." Officer Daniel spun around, his face darkening. "You got a problem with how we're handling this?" he growled, stepping toward the bystander. The man quickly raised his phone. "I'm just recording. Don't make me post this." That was enough to make the officers pause. A recorded video of their abuse would not go unnoticed. In an age of social media, videos like this had the potential to go viral, causing public outrage that could destroy their careers. With a snarl, Officer Blake finally spoke, his voice dripping with venom. "Fine, you can go. But you'd better remember who you're dealing with next time, little girl." Zara stood still, her hand gripping her phone as the officers backed away. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, but she didn't let herself break down. Not yet. As the officers turned their backs and walked to their squad car, Zara slowly exhaled, relief washing over her in waves. She had made it through without letting them break her. But the battle wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, Zara woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing incessantly. It wasn't unusual for her to get a few texts or calls, but today was different. The messages flooding her phone were from friends, family, and people she didn't even know. "Zara, are you okay? That video is everywhere. They're calling for those cops to be fired." Zara's stomach dropped. She hadn't checked the news yet. Her first instinct was to look at her social media, and when she did, her heart skipped a beat. The video of her confrontation with the officers had already gone viral. Headlines screamed, "Police harass teenager. A racial incident caught on camera." There were thousands of comments, some supportive, others filled with hate. But the outrage was palpable. Zara clicked on one of the viral news articles. The video footage was there, showing her standing tall, her face a mask of calm defiance as the officers tried to intimidate her. The footage cut off before the officers left, but the damage had been done. Public pressure was already building. Her father, Senator Daniel Carter, called her just after breakfast. "Zara, I saw the video," he said, his voice calm but tight. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Dad," she replied, though she could hear the tension in her own voice. "But I need to talk to you about this. It's not just me they're doing this to. It's so many others." "I know, sweetheart," he said softly, "and we'll make sure this isn't swept under the rug." Zara could hear her father's determination. Senator Carter had been a champion of civil rights his whole life, but this was personal. His daughter was the one being targeted, and he was going to make sure the cops were held accountable. Within hours, the news outlets were bombarding the Carter family's office with requests for statements, interviews, and opinions. A public relations team was set up, and it wasn't long before Zara was on a Zoom call with a group of journalists. Her father stood beside her as she spoke, offering a sense of reassurance. Zara took a deep breath, then spoke into the camera, addressing the nation. "This is bigger than just one incident. This is about systemic racism and police brutality. This is about how Black people, especially young Black women, are treated in this country. It's time we stop pretending it's not happening. It's time for change," Zara said, her voice strong, her words unwavering. The reporters scribbled down notes as she spoke, but Zara could see the skepticism in their eyes. This wasn't just a story about a cop getting caught on video. This was a call to action. Later that day, an official statement was released by her father's office. Senator Daniel Carter demands immediate investigation into police misconduct. The officers involved in the incident were placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. But Zara wasn't done yet. She knew this was just the beginning. The real work was about to start. The days that followed were filled with protests, rallies, and public speeches. Zara became a symbol of resistance, her story a beacon for others who had faced similar abuse. Her father's office worked tirelessly to ensure that the investigation into the officers' conduct was thorough, but Zara knew that the fight didn't end with one incident. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal battles, public outcry, and political pressure. But through it all, Zara remained steadfast. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every black person who had ever been silenced. And when the investigation concluded, the officers involved in her harassment were fired. But Zara knew this was just a small victory. The real change would come when the systems of power that allowed this kind of abuse to happen were dismantled. Zara stood before a crowd of thousands at a rally for racial justice, her voice ringing out with hope and resolve. "We're not done. Not by a long shot," she said. "This fight has just begun, and I will be here, fighting for justice every step of the way." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the streets. Zara had become more than just a symbol. She was a force of change. The beginning of a new chapter. Months passed, and the incident that had once threatened to break her had become the catalyst for something much larger. Zara's advocacy work gained national attention, and her voice became one of the leading forces in the movement for police reform and racial justice. As for Officer Blake and Officer Daniels, they were gone from the force, their careers ruined by their own actions. But Zara knew this was only the beginning of her journey. There was still much work to be done, and she was ready to do it.